As much as we may start to learn a language with the intention and our expectation, see the last video, that we will learn 100% all of the time, it does not happen like this. Why? Because language learning happens in seasons. Hello, if you're new here, my name is Lindsay from Lindsay Does Languages, and I help you learn languages better. And if you want to learn languages better, one of the best things you can do right now is to get your ticket for Grace and Space here and here. It's 2024, and this year's Grace and Space will be the 4th annual event. Very, very excited to host this. It's really an event for language learners who want to learn languages better, but just aren't interested in the hacks and the hustle of it all that usually gets put front and center. So if you're looking for a language event that will actually soothe you and not stress you, then this is the one for you. Learn more at Grace and Space. We'll talk about it at the end, or you can click the link in the description now. But for now, let's talk about seasons, because there will be a session about seasons at Grace and Space. Language learning, much like anything that we want to do in life, does not happen in a straight, even line upward trajectory. And the biggest reason for this is that our life, and consequently our language learning, has seasons. I'll be sharing more about the types of seasons of language learning, how you can work around the seasons of your life and still feel good about your languages at this year's Grace and Space. But for today, I just want to give you a bit of a primer as to why this happens. So for many years now, I've shared the idea of the two language phases that we all go through: speedy gains and steady growth. Speedy gains feel good. That's when we're making a decent amount of progress in a decent amount of time. We are feeling like we're on that straight upwards trajectory. But then steady growth happens, and steady growth often doesn't feel as good, at least the first time it happens, and especially if you don't know how to handle it. Steady growth is when things are maybe taking less progress in a longer period of time. So the progress to time is the big difference. But steady growth doesn't have to feel sluggish and misaligned. It can actually be a phase that we recognize as being really important for our language learning progress in the long term. Now, with the seasons session at Grace and Space, I'm really going to expand on this idea of speedy gains and steady growth for the first time ever, with a brand new way to look at this. And that's because I believe a huge part of my work is to make you feel comfortable and confident with your languages at any stage, regardless of whether things are slower or speedier at this given time. Because that will happen. You will go through these different phases. You can't control all of it. But what you can control is how you respond to ensure that you're always moving in the right direction, even if you're not necessarily be able to give 100% to your language learning at any time. Understanding learning fluctuations then. Well, thankfully, hopefully you'll agree with me on this. Thankfully, you're not a robot. So you are learning a language as a human. And a human inherently goes through different phases of life. And there's various factors that will affect how you show up in your language learning. This can't always be contributed to just one thing. And sometimes it may well be a combination of factors. For example, your environment, your health, your mood, the weather, all of these things and so many others can be different factors that affect how well you're able to show up and the different seasons that you're in with your life and with your languages. If you're feeling particularly run down, like you have a cold coming on, you can't give 100% for your languages. You can't be expected to. You might just about be able to manage to maintain the app streak on your phone while you binge watch The Office in bed and wonder if this is the final day of your life. But you can do something. And that little bit of app on that day is your 100% for that day, right? So we really have to balance this out and make sure that we're not having this continuous assumption of what it means to give 100% every single day, all of the time. Let's say you're coming up to a tight deadline for a work project and you have to work the odd extra hour here and there, and that eats into your language time. That's okay. And these are just short-term examples. There are plenty of longer-term examples too that can change your language learning over a longer period of time. Thinking pregnancy, moving house, caring for sick relatives, all of these things, you just can't expect yourself to show up 100% when those things are happening. And that is okay. And do you know why that's okay? Why they don't indicate failure at language learning? It's because we're not supposed to be constantly productive. That is a myth. You probably have this image in your head, right, of a more productive language learner than you, the ideal. Maybe they wake up earlier than you and they get all this extra language learning time in first thing, but you could never because you're so tired and you enjoy your sleep. Perhaps they book online language lessons more regularly than you because they're organized with it and they just know, and they book them at the same time, but you could never because your work schedule wouldn't allow that. Or maybe they even devote their entire weekends to learning that language, but you could never because you're having to care for a sick relative. And this ideal language learner, this imaginary person that you've created, you just sit and chip away at your own self-esteem about your own language ability. It's just not good. And here's the thing, I'm telling you now, that person does not exist. They do not exist. They are a figment of your imagination. We can't be constantly productive in the way that we imagine productivity to look like, because seeds take time to grow. Let's take the metaphor of a gardener here. And again, fits in with the idea of seasons, because their task isn't just to plant the seeds in our world to learn new words. Their job is also to allow those seeds a bit of nurture time, to water those seeds, aka practice the vocab, and then to take that food out of the ground and to cook with it. In our world, to use that language in a real life conversation. And so much of that gardener's growth and their croppage and harvest is happening at certain times of year. The garden is not constantly productive at the same level throughout the year. Sure, there may be some winter crops, but in winter, a lot of that time is letting the ground rest, letting themselves rest, and eating everything that they've preserved or frozen or made into jam. Periods of lower productivity are natural and important. Let them be. But why? Why are those periods of lower productivity, those breaks, why are they beneficial? Well, breaks and downtime really help to consolidate your learning. Imagine how nutritionally deprived that gardener's soil would be if it was continually having to produce new crops all of the time. It needs a little break. It needs a little lower productive part of the year. And this isn't just me banging on about gardening metaphors here. There is some science behind this too. Rest breaks have been found to aid learning in numerous studies. They help to improve your memory as well as act as a refresher for the body and for the mind. Two of the most reassuring books I've ever read are How We Learn by Benedict Carey and Rest by Alex Soojung Kim Pang. If you remain unconvinced on the power of rest and why we shouldn't always be learning at 100%, I highly recommend both of these books. And of course, if you're after just a bit more evidence to back up where you're already at, what you already believe, I recommend them too. And of course, there's one more thing I have to recommend, and that is to come and join me at Grace and Space. We will have a whole session digging into more, digging into more on everything that we've discussed in this episode. There are 4 topics for the 4 sessions I will be sharing with you at Grace and Space this year. They are expectations, seasons, shame, and distractions. And there's a reason for this. I didn't just pick these at random. I've been really looking at the feedback and things I've been hearing from people both that I work with and that are sort of in my space, on my email list, here on YouTube, etc., and really looking for those common themes. And these things were coming up again and again and again. Grace and Space is an annual event that I host online for language learners who want to learn better, but just are done with the hacks and the hustle of it. It's your chance to take a moment to pause, learn a bit more about how to learn a language, and then return to your language learning with the self-compassion and the support to apply all of that, rather than return to your language learning feeling stressed out that you're not doing well enough. Which, I've definitely had happen to me at a few language events before. And to make things more flexible than ever for you, this year's Grace and Space isn't live. So you can get your ticket safe in the knowledge that you'll be able to catch up at a time that suits you and not miss out on any of that live energy, because the thing that will be live is, for the first time, the group support chat. So throughout the entire week of Grace and Space, I'll be opening up a group chat on Voxer, which is kind of like WhatsApp, but without, giving out your phone number to strangers and distractions of group chats. And in Voxer, I will be answering your questions. You'll be hearing and learning from the questions and the opinions of others as well in the group. And this will be happening asynchronously. So I'll be checking in during my working and awake hours, and you can check in during yours. And then you can get those responses when you wake up the next day for the whole week of Grace and Space. So yeah, really excited to bring this to you for the first time. Grace and Space tickets are available now. Check the link in the description to get yours now, and I will see you at Grace and Space. Have a wonderful rest of your day. If you've enjoyed this, like, follow, subscribe, comment, tell a friend, make a banner and stick it up on your window. I don't know. Do whatever people do to share a YouTube video. And yes, I will see you very soon. Thank you. Bye.